The bread of gold. The scent of freshly baked bread drifted through the narrow streets of Eldoria, a small but bustling village. It was early morning, and the sun had just begun its slow ascent, casting golden hues over the rooftops. In the heart of the village, a humble bakery stood, its wooden sign swaying gently in the crisp morning breeze. Inside, Tobias, a poor but kind-hearted baker, worked tirelessly, his hands dusted with flour, kneaded dough with the expertise of a man who had dedicated his life to his craft. Despite his struggles, he never hesitated to give away a loaf to those who could not afford it. One particularly cold morning, as Tobias arranged his warm loaves on the counter, a hooded stranger entered. His cloak was tattered, his boots muddied from travel, and his face obscured by the shadow of his hood. The man's eyes, however, were sharp, studying Tobias with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "I have no money," the man admitted in a low voice, "but I am hungry." Tobias glanced at his bread. He had only baked enough to sell, and earned just enough to pay for flour and firewood. A moment of hesitation flickered across his face. Yet, he knew the pain of hunger too well. With a gentle smile, he reached for the warmest loaf on the shelf and handed it to the stranger. "Take this," Tobias said. "No one should go hungry." The stranger's gaze lingered on Tobias for a long moment before he nodded. Without another word, he turned and disappeared into the morning mist. Tobias sighed and returned to his work, unaware that this simple act of kindness would change his life forever. The days passed, and Tobias continued his routine, his bakery a beacon of warmth in the village. Yet, he could not shake the feeling that something was different. A strange energy lingered in the air, as if fate had set something in motion. One evening, as he prepared to close his shop, the same hooded stranger returned. This time, he held something wrapped in cloth. He placed it gently on the counter and unwrapped it, revealing a loaf of bread, golden, not just in color, but in substance. The entire loaf gleamed, reflecting the dim candlelight like polished metal. Tobias gasped. "What? What is this?" "A gift," the stranger said, "for your kindness." The baker hesitated, unsure whether to believe his own eyes. He picked up the loaf, expecting it to be heavy, but it felt just like regular bread. "Is this real gold?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The stranger merely smiled. "Eat it, and you shall see." Tobias hesitated. His mind swirled with questions, but curiosity and hunger outweighed caution. He tore off a piece and placed it in his mouth. The bread melted on his tongue, softer and richer than any he had ever tasted. The moment he swallowed, warmth spread through his body, an indescribable sensation of strength, vitality, and something else, something powerful. Suddenly, the pain in his hands, worn from years of baking, vanished. The fatigue in his limbs disappeared. He felt renewed. The stranger leaned in. "This bread carries magic. It grants fortune, strength, and health to those with pure hearts. But be warned, if greed takes root, it shall turn to dust." With those words, the stranger turned and disappeared once more, leaving Tobias staring at the golden loaf in awe and disbelief. The next morning, Tobias awoke feeling more energetic than ever before. As he stepped outside, he noticed something peculiar. The village folk, who had once passed his bakery without much thought, now lingered, their noses lifted to the air, drawn by the lingering aroma of the golden bread. At first, Tobias kept the loaf a secret. He continued baking as he always had, but he couldn't help but notice how his business flourished. More customers came, his savings grew, and soon he could afford finer ingredients, better equipment, and even a new sign for his bakery. Word of his bread spread far and wide, though no one knew the true reason behind his success. But curiosity gnawed at him. What if he could bake more golden loaves? What if he could change his fate forever? One night, unable to resist, Tobias tore off another piece of the golden loaf, hoping it would reveal its secrets. As he chewed, the same warmth filled his body, and an idea sparked in his mind. He would experiment. He gathered his ingredients, determined to replicate the magical bread. But no matter how much he tried, no matter what he added, nothing shone like that first golden loaf. Frustration took hold. Was he meant to have only one? Was this his only chance at true prosperity? A darker thought crept in. What if he hoarded the magic? What if he sold it to the wealthiest bidders? The idea of unimaginable riches clouded his judgment, pushing aside the very kindness that had first led to his gift. The next morning, Tobias returned to the golden loaf, eager to try again. But as he reached for it, his heart clenched. The bread, once shimmering, had dulled. The once soft texture had hardened. With a shaking hand, he tore off a piece and bit into it. Dust. The magic was gone. A knock at the door startled him. The hooded stranger stood there, his eyes knowing. "You were warned," the man said softly. Tobias fell to his knees. "Please, I lost my way. I let greed take hold." The stranger studied him for a long moment before nodding. "True wealth is not found in gold, but in the hands that create, the heart that gives, and the soul that remains pure." Tears welled in Tobias's eyes as he looked around his bakery. He had lost the magic, but not his craft, not his kindness, not the very things that had made him who he was. With a heavy heart but newfound wisdom, Tobias rose, dusted the flour from his hands, and returned to his oven. The golden bread was gone, but his passion remained. And that, he realized, was the real gift all along.